everyone. Can you all hear me? My name is Jeff Thielman. I am the chairperson of the Arlington High School Building Committee, and I want to begin by just having anyone from the Building Committee stand up and be recognized. So several of us are going to be presenting tonight, and lots of people have been working on this project for a long time. Our state representative, Sean Garbely, is here. Sean has been working on this project since he was in high school. And so things take a while, Sean. Things take a while. And really, in all seriousness, the delegation, State Senator Cindy Friedman, State Representative David Rogers, and State Representative Sean Garbely have been backing this project. Have been backing this project since the beginning and have been very helpful to all of us as we've kind of worked our way through it. Sean and Cindy and Dave have spoken and lobbied the Massachusetts School Building Authority for funding for the town. They've appeared before the board, and Sean and others have had many meetings with state officials lobbying for this project. So tonight, we want to explain to you this $290.8 million project for a new high school and explain that about 30% of this amount, approximately $86 million, will be coming from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. On June 11th, the voters get to decide the fate of this project. And if a majority of the voters vote yes, then the project moves forward. We have put a report before town meeting, and we have a website with extensive information, so if we don't answer all of your questions tonight, there are different places where you can go to get it. I want to be very clear at the beginning of this presentation that Arlington needs a new high school because of increasing enrollment and a deteriorating and outdated facility that no longer meets the needs of today's students. The time to build is now. Delaying this project for any reason will cost taxpayers more money and will likely result in Arlington losing or receiving less state funding. And we believe, the Arlington High School Building Committee believes, that the new high school is the best educational and financial choice for Arlington, and we hope the voters feel the same way on June 11th. So let me talk a little bit about why we need a new high school. Arlington High School serves 1,400 students, and it's one of the highest performing schools in the state. Dr. Jangle will talk about that in a few minutes. The academic achievements of our students and the excellent teaching that takes place at AHS do not tell the whole story, however. In 2013, our accrediting agency, the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, placed Arlington High School on warning status because of issues with the facility that negatively impact student learning. The science labs are inadequate and do not meet today's educational standards. Multiple classrooms have obstructed views due to columns retained from previous renovations. Because of the poor configuration of the building and a lack of space, students sit in hallways and stairwells to collaborate. Throughout the building, classrooms are consistently too hot or too cold. There are numerous window and roof leaks. There is one undersized elevator for the 390,000 square foot complex, and the media center and cafeteria are both overflowing. The list goes on and on. In addition to the challenges to the physical plant, we are in a moment of rising enrollment, which the current facility cannot accommodate. Over the past decade, the district's enrollment has increased, the total district's enrollment has increased by 1,700 students, the equivalent of 3 elementary schools. Over the next 3 years alone, the high school's enrollment is expected to increase by more than 200 students, and we anticipate this growth to continue. The school has a confusing and inefficient layout with more than 1.5 miles of hallways to navigate and maintain. The campus that we have today emerged because of a series of additions and renovations that occurred between 1914 and 1981. In the mid-1970s, the voters turned down a proposed new high school, and 6 years later, the town ended up spending more money on the 1980 and 81 additions than it would have spent on the all-new facility proposed in 1975. I think we can all agree that we do not want to make this mistake again. Let me take a moment to explain our partnership with the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or the MSBA. The MSBA provides technical and financial assistance to cities and towns in Massachusetts when they want to build and rebuild public schools. In 2016, after our second application, the MSBA invited Arlington into its grant program, and the town formed the building committee. With assistance from the state, we chose our architects and our owner's project manager, and we began studying different ways to address the serious issues facing Arlington High School. Representatives of our owner's project manager, Skanska, and our architectural firm, HMFH, are here tonight to answer your questions. There were many steps in the MSBA process, but a notable one was determining the building's design enrollment. The number of students, more than any other factor, determines the size and ultimately the cost of the school. In 2016 and 2017, we had a series of meetings with the MSBA, ultimately agreeing to a design enrollment of 1,755 students. This figure informs the number of homerooms we will have in the school, but it is not a cap on the enrollment that can be allowed inside the building. The design is flexible enough to have educational programming for more than 1,755 pupils. Our high school is unique in many ways. One of the complexities that we need to address is that the school has multiple functions that support the entire community. State law requires Arlington to have a public preschool and to offer services to children with special education needs beginning at age 3. For many years now, Arlington High School has been the home of the Menominee Preschool, which serves more than 150 children. It is a wonderful program that is integrated into the high school. In fact, students from AHS's early childhood education classes do some of their practical studies at the preschool. The high school also is home to part of the Lab Collaborative, a partnership with Lexington, Burlington, Bedford, and Belmont to provide holistic special education services to children. The offices of Arlington Community Education reside in the facility because of the program's extensive use of the building. Our school is filled every night of the week with community members taking courses in that program. Another challenge that makes AHS unique is that we are building on a compact and complicated site. The high school campus is a little more than 22 acres, while the MSBA target is that a high school should be located on a property with a minimum of 25 acres. There is a 24-foot grade change from the front to the back of the building, and Millbrook runs underneath the campus. In addition, parts of the site are contaminated, although the grounds are regularly monitored according to state and federal regulations. And all chromium contamination in the area around the high school is capped. These factors make our construction project more complex than others. The high school currently contains several townside services, including the comptroller, information technology, payroll, and the facilities departments. Finally, the school district offices are located at Arlington High. During the past year, we made several decisions about where to place these offices, and I want to explain these now. The committee voted to move the comptroller, information technology, and facilities departments out of the school. The district offices, the school district offices, were kept inside the building because our analysis showed this was less costly than moving them elsewhere. This same study determined that the Parmenter School could not permanently accommodate Menominee Preschool because it is not large enough to meet the state standards for publicly administered preschools. This prompted us to keep Menominee Preschool at Arlington High. And by including the preschool in the high school rebuild project, we are able to fund it partially with MSBA dollars, which is a better deal for the taxpayers of Arlington. As you all know, we made significant decisions about the overall design of the school. This part of the process was lengthy and involved many spirited discussions with members of the community, which was a good thing for the town and a good thing for this project. Over the course of 8 public forums and multiple surveys, we invited anyone with an interest in the project to give us their thoughts. I think everyone here realizes that it is not possible for this building or for any large-scale public project to meet the desires and expectations of everyone in the town. After narrowing the choices to 4 in the spring of 2018, we asked the architects to present alternatives based on community and committee feedback. In June of 2018, we voted to submit a preferred design concept to the MSBA for a completely new high school. The plan calls for the new school to be built in phases with no interruption to student learning or activities. The design we chose preserves 2/3 of the front lawn and is the best combination of cost-effectiveness, educational design, and a favorable construction timeline. We chose to build a new school because renovating part of the current facility and building an addition would have cost $25 million more, would take 1.25 years longer to build, and would have caused AHS to operate for 2 years without a gym and another 2 years without an auditorium. With input from the community, we opted for a design that respected Arlington's past, but allowed for a modern and efficient building that is flexible enough to meet the changing needs of today's students. I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to call up our principal, Matt Janger, who's going to talk about the educational vision and how that informed our work.
Thank you, Jeff. So I want to begin by explaining the context of our work. I want to begin by explaining the context of our work by talking about rising expectations in education, the research our faculty and staff did to create the educational plan, and our goal of creating a balanced and flexible spaces for learning and student life. First, it's important to note that Arlington High School is really an exceptional school. This slide hurts me a little bit because the last time I made this presentation, we were 9th. We went from 25th to 9th, and we dropped back down to 25th because they keep changing the criteria. But if one looks generally at the criteria for school and education, one should realize that we have been ranked among top 10% schools in the state by the PISA, which is the international comparisons, by Newsweek magazine, by the Washington Post, as well as by U.S. News & World Report. It's also important to realize that if Massachusetts were a country, it would be among the top 5 educational systems in the world. This means that Arlington is one of the best high schools in one of the best public school systems in the world. People who have lived in Arlington recall that this building once housed many more students, and some have asked me why it cannot accommodate the growing enrollment. The simple answer is that the building cannot accommodate the educational needs of a modern school. Only 23% of the classrooms are up to the current size standard. Many classrooms have obstructed views. We will get a better result, and it's more cost-effective to start new. In addition to the programs that Jeff noted, the lab, the preschool, the district offices, changes in the law, No Child Left Behind, and special education have increased the expectation of schools to serve a wider range of student needs. Graduation rates nationally have risen from 75% in the 80s to 87% nationally, and Arlington now has a 98% graduation rate. This requires a wider range of programs and facilities for special education and student support. At the same time, changes in technology have increased the need for students to learn with, about, and from computers and digital production tools. So I'd like now to talk about the research and reflective process that went into this. Let me go back and explain how we got to the current plan. When Arlington began planning for this project 5 years ago, staff researched, visited schools and programs around the state to choose what was best, to reflect on current and future practices, and to develop programming and capacity to support our educational vision. 2 things became clear. We wanted a building that was both balanced and flexible. Some buildings placed a priority on one area or one group of students. Others had layouts that rigidly followed a current educational model and could not easily be adapted. We wanted to avoid both of these errors. So let me talk about balance. The Arlington design provides balance, that is, appropriate facilities for all children and for the whole child. Performing arts, athletics, library, support services, specialized spaces are distributed well, but not excessively to support all the students in the community. Central spaces are larger than the minimum to support enrollment growth, but none of them are to the maximum. The theater, the gym, the library, the cafeteria. In many schools, we saw that one or the other of these programs was maximized to the detriment of others. The design is also flexible. It supports our current vision and educational practice, but it also allows for a range of other uses for 50 years and beyond. I'm very excited that you can see the educational vision executed in the facilities and the adjacencies, the things that are close to one another in the building. I'm also excited that I can see multiple options for change and growth. I'll now walk through the elements of the vision and give a sense of how they are reflected in the building. First, I'd like to talk about departments and neighborhoods. So if you look at this picture, you'll see that the building has two academic wings, STEAM and Humanities. Arlington has a strong departmental structure and curriculum. We have kept that structure in the new building with departments positioned to support departmental work, but natural interdisciplinary connections. The STEAM wing houses science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, with science labs and math labs located on each floor and arts and engineering makerspaces located on the main floor. The Humanities Wing houses family and consumer science, English, world language, and history. Both are linked by the Library Learning Commons. If you look, you'll notice that the academic wings are laid out in neighborhoods. The classrooms are located around halls designed for groups and not passageways to other places. This serves three purposes. First, it supports our house structure. To make our large school feel smaller, we divide the school into houses. They stay with the same dean, guidance counselors, and advisory group over 4 years. And because these halls are not passages, it enhances security, because students only enter the classroom areas with a reason. So if students are working in the hallways or in those spaces, they should be there and other students aren't passing through. Last, it enables interdisciplinary cooperation and flexible programming. It would be easy to create a school within a school or an interdisciplinary team by repurposing one or more of these classroom suites. The next exciting feature of the building is the Interdisciplinary Learning Commons. Located in the central spine, the Central Commons brings the school together for shared spaces, collaboration, and support. It includes the library, central hall, cafeteria, the discourse lab, and the green roof. It houses research tools, technology, gathering and breakout spaces to support teaching and learning in the future. We sometimes use the term makerspaces. These are classrooms housing specialized technology for hands-on and applied learning. That includes our music production studio, our computer-assisted design lab, our digital media lab, and our wood shop. All of these are places we currently squeeze into less than ideal spaces. In addition, when students were consulted about the new building, they talked about varied and welcoming gathering places, access to green spaces and natural lights, and more bathrooms, but I digress. That usually gets a laugh, by the way, just so you know. The idea is that this commons creates a welcoming community space and natural areas for students and staff to gather and collaborate. This gives students a sense of independence while being easily supervised. The Learning Commons is a place to bring together all of these elements of the school. And last but not least, we have the two community wings, performing arts and athletics. These two wings house the main gathering spaces for events and the facilities to support our performing arts and physical education programs. Both can easily be sectioned off from the building, so we can more easily run community events outside of school hours. For anyone who has ever been to one of our productions, you know that the Arlington Performing Arts Department is an award-winning program. It's done in less than ideal facilities. The current 900-seat theater is only sized for 550 seats. Our little theater, band room, and music lab are carved out of substandard classroom spaces. The Performing Arts Wing will house a 900-seat theater, a black box little theater, a band room and a chorus room, and a digital media lab built to the current standards. And then ponder physical education and athletics. We have a winning history. The new athletics facility will house a larger main gym with an indoor jogging track, a second gym the same size as the current blue gym, an alternative gym for smaller programming, and a fitness room. It will give us direct access to the fields and again will be easily closed off after hours to allow more security in athletics. One advantage of this will be to allow for community activities after hours, such as walking by community members or late-night gym for students. I'm excited by how closely we've been able to realize our educational vision. I'm excited about a school that will excite and welcome both students, teachers, and the community, and support truly exceptional education in Arlington for years to come. Thank you.
The next person to present is John Cole. John has been involved in all the building projects in the town of Arlington over the past 25 or so years, has a great deal of experience, and is an architect. So John will talk about the design.
Is that going to sit there okay? Thank you, Jeff. Good evening. For anybody in the hall tonight who's new to the town, I'd like you to know that the project before you tonight is the culmination of a 25-year process of upgrading the educational facilities of this town to benefit future generations. Over that time, we've rebuilt or built new 7 elementary schools and 2 middle schools. The high school project would be the capstone of this effort. Can I have next slide, please? I'd like to begin by talking about the spine, which Matthew talked about earlier as the core to the educational facility. This is a space that brings joy to the heart of an architect. It is open, it is light-filled. It's the crossroads of the school, where all the elements of a comprehensive urban school come together to mingle and converse in an informal setting. It's also a civic space where we invite the community in to see the talents of our students on display and also to benefit from the facilities for their own needs. The circulation is clear and simple. The building is entered either from Massachusetts Avenue on the left or the field side on the right. You come in at either end, you walk a straight line, you make one turn right or left to get to your destination. No more wandering around in a maze of corridors and stairs that lead nowhere, hoping for a student Sherpa like my friend Avery over here who can get you home. In the center of this space is the forum. That's where we mediate the 24-foot grade change previously referenced. It's a real challenge, and our architects have gracefully made it into an informal gathering space. On one side, it's a simple stair connecting the 2 levels. On the other side, it splays out into tiered seating to create that informal gathering space that's the heart of the educational vision. Next slide. I'd like to take a moment for a personal reflection about why we chose a new school as opposed to an addition renovation. After we had decided that no other site in town could accommodate a school, or high school, and that the existing building was too small for the educational program, we looked at 7 different alternatives as noted. Those are boiled down to 4, 2 addition renovation projects and 2 new construction. They were examined in more detail by our architect and technical team, and they were priced by 2 independent cost estimators. At the end of that process, the committee decided in favor of the new school for 3 reasons. Number 1, logistics. Maintaining the existing would have meant housing students in modular classrooms for an extended period at a cost of approximately $5 million unreimbursed by the state. It also would have meant no gym and no performing arts for 2 years, as mentioned. Hard to imagine teenage hormones being quieted with no spaces like that to dissipate them. Secondly, cost. $25 million was the differential between new construction and the best case addition renovation. That's enough for a new elementary school. And God forbid we may need it. Lastly, function. And most importantly, once you get past the facades of the existing buildings, which have, I admit, sentimental value to many in the community, myself included, as the proud parent of 2 Arlington High School graduates. But once you get past that facade, there's no there. Previous renovations in the 60s and the 80s obliterated the historical interiors and knitted together the complex of buildings with, as Jeff mentioned, 1.5 miles of corridors and 22 stairs. It is really unworkable. To preserve that would have been unconscionable, bringing the inefficiencies of the existing into the heart of the new. So I think we did the right thing to go with a new school. But that being said, the committee recognizes the importance of this site to the history of the town, and we want to recognize it. So in this image, you see the central stone facade of the Fusco building, the oldest one on the site, taken down and rebuilt as the entry to the Performing Arts Wing. We've also charged the architect with finding a creative way to incorporate an image of the column house facade, that's the one with the columns and the pediment, to be etched or laminated onto a large curtain wall, big piece of glass, facing one of our new courtyards. We've also will preserve many artifacts from within the buildings, which are listed here. I won't go into them. And lastly, we have set up a subcommittee to inventory all the memorials on the site and in the building so that they can be reincorporated respectfully into the new building. So, I'd like to talk about the site plan of a building that excites me. Here it is. Take a moment to study it if you haven't seen it before. The building is moved forward towards Massachusetts Avenue. This has short-term logistical benefits I'll talk about in a moment, but more importantly, it has long-term programmatic benefits. Number one, moving the building forward creates more field space in the back, which is desperately needed. We will have a competition varsity baseball field, competition varsity softball field, upon which can be overlaid the rectangular sports, soccer, lacrosse, and field hockey. These fields are artificial turf, and they will be lit to extend their usability both seasonally and daily. In addition, this layout of the central spine and the 4 spokes creates more usable outdoor space. On the left-hand side, an amphitheater connected to the Performing Arts Wing, and on the right-hand side, a courtyard into which the maker spaces can spill out in good weather. This configuration also provides more daylight to the educational spaces by separating the wings. If you read the research, you'll know it's important in educational facilities to have daylit classroom space. The current building does not have daylight in every space, nor would a renovation addition. Circulation is also an important feature of this site plan. There is a 2-way, 25-foot wide vehicular loop from Mill Street all the way around to Mass Ave. There are drop-off areas both in the rear and on the the Mass Ave side. On the east side of the building, along the CVS parking lot, there is pedestrian and bicycle access over what today is a very steep drop. And lastly, in the rear, along the edge of the baseball field, there is a ramp which will give us a bicycle connection to the Minuteman Bikeway. So, last thing, parking. 225 spaces on site today, about the same will be on site at the end of the project. However, because we are relocating town facilities, there's a net gain of about 30 spaces, which will accommodate staff growth. Additionally, the parking lot on the Mill Street entry side of the site is designed such that a parking deck could be built above it at minimal disruption in the future. Okay, now let's talk about how we do it. Here's the existing plan. And can we have the overlay, please? Okay. So now you have the new building and the existing footprint overlaid in the blue dotted line. So as you can see, in phase 1, we will build in front of the existing school, which will remain operational. In January of 2022, current freshmen will move into a new STEAM wing, a new performing arts. This creates the famous swing space by allowing space in the existing buildings to be mothballed as opposed to housing students in modular classrooms. So once the swing space is created in phase 2, we can now proceed in counterclockwise fashion to demolish and build. So phase 2, we take down Column House and build the Humanities Wing plus district administration and the Menotomy Preschool. Phase 3, demolish Fusco House and build the new athletic facilities. That'll be completed September of 2024, at which time current Arlington third graders will move into a brand new facility. After that, there's about 8 months of site work remaining in the rear and demolition of the red gym and downs. That's how we get there. Bear with us, it's only 4 years. Thank you.
An important part of our efforts over the past 2.5 years has been to create a building that is energy efficient and as close to net zero as possible. And the chairperson of our sustainability subcommittee is Ryan Katofsky, who has a 25-year career in this field. So Ryan, come on up.
Thanks, Jeff, and good evening, everybody. So we've been working on sustainability for the new high school from the beginning of the project, and our goal has been to make that the considerations for both energy and sustainability integral to the project itself as opposed to an afterthought. There's a few elements of that I'll run through for you this evening. The first thing we want to do is to design a very energy efficient building. This lowers long-term operating costs and also results in a more resilient building. So for example, if the power goes out and it's sustained for a long period of time, the building's better able to maintain comfort for longer if it's highly energy efficient. We've done some preliminary energy modeling of the new high school, and it shows that the new building is going to use about half of the site energy as the current building does, but it's going to provide vastly superior comfort for its occupants. The other thing we're doing is we're positioning the school to become carbon neutral over time. And the way you do this is to design for an all-electric building. So the town has a goal of being carbon neutral by 2050. So even if we're purchasing electricity from the grid, as the grid gets cleaner over time, the emissions associated with the high school will decrease and eventually go to zero. And you can only achieve this if you're not using fossil fuels directly in the building. So making it an all-electric building is a key part of our strategy for becoming carbon neutral over time. There's two technologies that are critical for making this happen. One is called ground source heat pump technology. This is extremely efficient technology for providing both heating and cooling with the same system. The other technology is called photovoltaic technology, or solar panels. You might have noticed on some of the images of the school that we already have solar arrays on the school. We have about 200 kilowatts of solar power on AHS, and we have, I think, 5 other schools that have solar as well. Our plan is to move the existing panels onto the buildings built in phase 1 that John showed you just a couple of minutes ago. And then we're going to add more solar capacity to the other parts of the building. And we're also planning to look at some options for some ground-mounted solar. So, for example, putting a canopy over one of the parking areas and perhaps in some other locations. So we're going to significantly increase the total amount of solar that we have on site. As part of our work on our energy efficiency and renewable energy aspects of the building, we are part of a program called Accelerate Performance. This is a pilot program offered by our 2 utilities. They're providing us with free technical assistance, and they're guaranteeing us a minimum level of utility incentives for participating in the program, provided that we hit certain targets that we agree to ahead of time. So the actual amount of incentives that we'll get will depend on the final design of the building, but as part of participation, we're guaranteed a minimum. And I think Adam Chapdelaine, town manager, will talk a little bit more about that when he goes through the building cost information. So the big goal of being part of the Accelerate Performance program is that we want to set aggressive but realistic energy efficiency targets early in the design process, and then we work to achieve them at little or no incremental cost. Part of this process, as we go into the next phase of design, will be to conduct a life cycle analysis. So we've already done a lot of work looking at our options for energy efficiency and renewable energy. We'll be refining that in this life cycle analysis. We're going to look at trade-offs between different choices around mechanical systems, various energy conservation measures, and so on, before we make any final decisions about the systems that are going to go into the building. Moving beyond energy for just a minute, some other sustainability features that we've been working on. I think you've already heard a couple of the presenters talk about daylight. We're going to have ample daylight in the building, including some light wells that are going to bring daylight into some of the interior spaces. All the classrooms will have lots of natural light. John Cole also mentioned the pedestrian and bicycle access. It's going to be vastly improved, including the access to the Minuteman Bikeway. I'm hoping that will encourage more students and staff to either walk or bike to the school. We're also planning ahead for an electric vehicle future. We're going to have 10% of the parking spaces equipped with electric vehicle chargers, and we're making other parking spaces EV ready. This basically means putting in the conduit for wiring and making it easy to install chargers in the future so that we don't have to, if we want to add more chargers, we don't have to be ripping up parking lots to do that. We're also working on specifications for environmentally friendly finishes and other building materials, and we're planning to recover all the food waste from the cafeteria. The district already has a great program that is working to reduce food waste, and we're going to be extending that to the high school. So I hope that gives you an idea of what we're planning for the new high school with respect to energy and sustainability. I'm personally very excited about this. It's not even just a once-in-a-generation opportunity. It's literally a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to build a school that is highly energy efficient and sustainable. And it's not only the right thing for us to do, but it will also result in a building that has lower operating costs. And I'm hopeful that it will actually inspire all of us to strive to be a little bit more green. So with that, I think I'm just going to turn it over to Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine to talk about the costs for the project.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Adam Chapdelaine. I serve as town manager here in Arlington. And as Ryan mentioned, I want to talk a little bit about the project budget tonight. So as Jeff mentioned earlier, the project budget, excuse me, as approved by the MSBA Board of Directors, is $290.8 million. Arlington's share is $204.8, and the MSBA's share is $86 million. This makes Arlington's effective reimbursement rate approximately 30%. This entire project has been a partnership with the MSBA from the start, and we don't only benefit from their significant financial contribution, but also from their strict process and protocol that ensures that we are building both an educationally sound and fiscally responsible building. They monitor our planning decisions and will continue to monitor our design and construction process as the project moves forward. We benefit greatly from our dedicated and talented building committee, our owner's project manager, and our architectural team, but we also have the benefit of the oversight of an independent third party in the MSBA, which provides an added level of assurance that we are progressing as intended. It's also important to note that as of April 10th, and that's when the MSBA Board of Directors voted to approve this project, that the MSBA share of the project is locked in and cannot be increased. Additionally, Arlington's share cannot increase from what was requested of town meeting without a further action of town meeting. And if such an increase were to be necessary, we would certainly have to go back to town meeting and justify it. However, we feel as though we've planned appropriately to protect against cost overruns in this project, and currently in the project budget, we're carrying a 12% contingency, which adds up to approximately $30 million. Additionally, as we progress through design development and even into construction, we will look for opportunities to value engineer or reduce project cost so that we can be as efficient as possible, so long as any potential reductions do not impact the educational plan or vision for the school. If we could have the next slide. So in terms of how we arrived at the $290.8 million budget, I'd like to talk a little bit about the cost reductions that we've made so far, and then the increases in MSBA reimbursement that we've earned. To start, by selecting the all-new facility option, the committee saved $25 million as compared to the addition renovation option. Additionally, by moving the comptroller to Town Hall and the facilities and IT offices to what will be the newly renovated DPW facility, we've reduced the high school project budget by $8.4 million. Going further, the committee went through a value engineering exercise which reduced the project budget by another $7.1 million, reducing both the scope of the project and making several choices regarding materials and fixtures. Finally, as mentioned by Ryan, this project is already a part of the Accelerate Performance Partnership with the utilities, which is guaranteed as a floor of $200,000 in energy rebates. We expect this number to increase as design development advances, but we're very pleased that we're actually being guaranteed this amount from the start. We can have the next slide. Beyond cost reductions, the committee has also worked hard to maximize reimbursement from the MSBA. Our base level reimbursement, assigned by a formula, is 45.11%. However, the MSBA allows districts to earn additional reimbursement points under various categories. Through the submission of a detailed, proactive building maintenance budget, we've earned an additional 1.61% in reimbursement, which accounts for an approximate increase of $2.8 million over what would have been our baseline reimbursement level. Additionally, by designing a sustainable building as described by Ryan, we've earned a 2% reimbursement rate increase, accounting for an approximate $3.5 million in additional reimbursement. And we've also earned a 1% increase for using the construction manager at risk procurement method, which adds an approximate $1.7 million to our reimbursement. Collectively, these add up to a stated reimbursement rate of 49.72% and an additional $8 million in reimbursement that we would not have received if not for the work of the High School Building Committee. It's also important to note that even though our stated reimbursement rate is 49.72%, as you saw on a prior slide, our effective reimbursement rate is approximately 30%. And this is due to the various caps and limits that the MSBA puts on reimbursements, which ultimately reduce the total amount of reimbursement received by the district. Next slide, please. Another effort that we've undertaken in regard to cost is the creation of a benchmark analysis that you see on the slide behind me. We've put this together to create as best possible an apples-to-apples comparison of other high school projects in the region of a similar scope and on a similar timeline. We've done this to demonstrate that though our project cost represents a very significant expenditure, it is in fact in line with what other cities and towns are seeing as they implement similar projects. For the purposes of this analysis, we're comparing ourselves to the projects in Waltham, Belmont, Saugus, and Somerville. The top row shows us that the project cost that was approved by the MSBA for each of these projects. The row below that shows an escalated project cost for each project as though it was being built on our exact timeline. Skanska, our OPM, has provided us data from several construction industry indices, and this data shows that construction costs have been escalating approximately 4% per year over the last several years, and forecasts do not show this abating anytime soon. Waltham is on the same timeline as us, but Belmont, Saugus, and Somerville are all ahead of us. And therefore, when you escalate their costs as if they were on our timeline, you can see that their project costs are increased. Below that, you can see the construction cost per square foot for each project. Waltham's is not available yet, based on the escalated project costs, and that analysis shows that we're in a range similar to the other schools that are included in this analysis. Next, you can see that we've provided the design enrollment for each project, and from that, we're able to demonstrate a per pupil cost for each project. Once again, you can see that we're in a range similar to these other schools, and we compare especially favorably to the Waltham and Somerville projects. It's also worth mentioning that our costs include approximately 30,000 square feet of non-high school space that these other projects do not include, such as the Menotomy Preschool and the district administration offices. Next slide, please. So moving to this slide, you can see the projected taxpayer impact of the project based on various levels of home type and assessments. The annual taxpayer impact based on January 2019 assessed values ranges from $496 for a condominium to $976 for a three-family home. The average impact for a single-family home is $802. I think it's worth mentioning here that just this year, town meeting, at the recommendation of the Select Board, adopted further tax relief measures for seniors in recognition of the impacts of these projected tax impacts. And then moving to my final slide. Shifting from budget, I just want to talk a little bit about maintenance. In 2015, with an eye toward professionalizing our facilities management, the town created a facilities department. Since its formation, we've compiled a proactive asset management database which details all of our building systems across all town and school facilities and prescribes all of the required maintenance. Additionally, we've hired trained HVAC and trades personnel and trained them in the operation of the specific building systems that we have. The combination of professional management, a systems-based approach to preventative maintenance, and a talented and trained staff puts us on solid footing to ensure that a significant investment in the high school will be well cared for. Finally, as mentioned earlier, based on our submission of a proactive and detailed maintenance plan to the MSBA, we're receiving an additional 1.61% in reimbursement for the project. So with that, I'll say thank you and turn it back over to Jeff.
Thank you, Adam. Now I want to talk a little bit about what happens if we wait and what happens if the voters say no. Many people in town have asked why should we build now and why can't we wait? I think everyone here and throughout the town knows that a no vote will be demoralizing to faculty, students, and staff throughout the entire school district. But let's take a few minutes at this time to talk about what a no vote means in terms of our finances and the physical structure of the facility. We asked our owner's project manager to prepare a detailed analysis of the costs of a no vote, which you can find on pages 35 to 37 of the report that we gave to town meeting, which is in the back of the building. The short answer is that a no vote on the debt exclusion will cost Arlington households more money. This is because no matter what the outcome is on June 11th, we must address rising enrollment in our school district. We have to modernize the facility, and we have to maintain accreditation. Doing nothing is not an option. We are the generation of citizens in the town of Arlington that have to fix these problems with or without state money. If the vote fails, the town will have to regroup and restart the design process that took the better part of the past 2 years. We will need to have public hearings and listening sessions, select a design firm and an owner's project manager. We may choose to re-enter the MSBA process, but there is a significant likelihood we will not be accepted. The experience in Lincoln, Massachusetts is one example. The town rejected an MSBA finance school in 2012, tried and failed to re-enter the MSBA system, and the Lincoln taxpayers are now building a new elementary school for more than 3 times what they would have paid in 2012. We asked our owner's project manager and architectural team to lay out the least costly non-MSBA option that would minimally meet current building codes and accessibility requirements, address enrollment growth, and maintain accreditation. And that analysis, assuming the best case scenario with the fastest timeline, Arlington's taxpayers would need to spend $250 million of our own money, or more than $1,000 per average single-family household, to renovate and build an addition to Arlington High School. That is $200 more per average household than the proposal before the voters on June 11th. The result of this more costly investment for Arlington taxpayers would be a challenging and confusing layout for the high school, very much like what we have today. Many core spaces would be undersized with no natural light. Classrooms would continue to be obstructed, and because of ADA regulations, the renovated auditorium would have 566 seats as opposed to the 900 we have now and plan to have in the new school. The cafeteria and the gym spaces would be smaller than those in our current design. We would spend more money, the process would take years longer, and our students and teachers would work and study in a school that is inferior to the one we are proposing to the voters on June 11th. A no vote puts our town on the path to repeating Arlington's experience of the 1970s. I believe, and we believe, that everyone in town wants to do right by our students. And our hope is that the voters of Arlington choose the best option that is the most fiscally responsible and the quickest way to deliver the best educational option for our students. To show you what that option looks like, I want to share with all of you the following fly-through video of the new school. about the future, a future all of us in this community have a chance to shape. Inside and outside of the building, our students will continue to undergo all the crazy, exciting, emotional, and wonderful things that happen as they progress from freshman to senior year. However, with the help of the voters on June 11th, they will study in a safer and more secure building. It will be easier to navigate, and it will be filled with natural light. Science will be taught in spaces that meet national and state standards. Theater, music, and the arts programs will take place in spaces that are equal to our town's outstanding reputation for the arts. Playing fields will offer longer practices and longer sessions, and this improved facility will also help Arlington attract and retain talented staff who want to work and teach in a school that embodies 21st century learning practices. This is a moment, as Ryan and others have said, that only comes along once in a generation. Over the past 2.5 years, we have had a wonderful dialogue about what people in town value and want to see in the school, and we want to continue that dialogue. Now, together, we have a chance to turn this vision from an idea into reality. Together, we can create a school that will be a landmark and a source of civic pride for years to come. We appreciate all of the input we've had over the past 2.5, 3 years. We look forward to a long dialogue with the community as the project unfolds, and tonight we're here to take your questions for the remainder of the hour we have here in this building. Thanks very much. Questions? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hello? Is it anticipated that the PV panels will generate all the electricity needed for the building?
Ryan?
Can you hear me now? It's unlikely. So we're going to generate as much as we can. We talked earlier about the fact that this is a very tight site. So we have, you have 4- and 5-story classroom wings, not 2- and 3-story classroom wings. So the amount of space we have on the building relative to the total square footage of the building is quite small. So we're going to get as much as we can out of the roof. We're going to get a little bit more out of some ground-mounted solar, but it's not likely that we're going to meet all of the electricity needs of the building.
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for these outstanding presentations.
You're welcome.
It's so exciting.
Thank you.
I'm interested in knowing whether or not there are design features in individual classrooms that will build increased facilities for a variety of instructional technology approaches.
Who wants to take that, Matt or Lori?
Yes, I'm interested in whether the design of individual classrooms is going to substantively change the type of instructional technologies that can be utilized.
We hope so. Right now, if you actually look at our current classrooms, just simple, basic instructional expectations. If you're going into a modern classroom, if you've got a portable classroom or modular, right now you would have automatically built-in projection, built-in sound, easy access to Wi-Fi or some sort of connection to be able to project and to be able to play stuff. Just that basic kind of functionality. Right now we have carts of Chromebooks and student Chromebooks and other devices that people use, but to use those interactively to make them be able to connect and project and to use those within a class is very difficult. Right now in most of our classrooms it costs $2,000 to mount a ceiling-mounted projector because of the ridiculous sort of ways in which the different constructions were done in the past. So we can't do any of those things. So right now all of our classrooms are jury-rigged. People have made all kinds of various different ways to make sure we have sound projection and connectivity. That's sort of the basic in terms of being able to use interactive kinds of technology. So if you go into a classroom that is now built for good Wi-Fi access, storage spaces for computer and technology, wireless, mounted projectors, and we're going to design all of it so some of it can be swapped out. One, it will allow us to simply function at the level where we are now. And the idea with technology is they talk about the SAMR model. When we think about technology in the classroom, we think about substitution, augmentation, modification, and then reimagining. So when you think about if a computer is replacing a typewriter, that's substitution. If a computer is allowing you to do things that you used to do on a typewriter, but way better than a typewriter, but it's still the same thing, that's augmentation. Right now, teachers are experimenting with things that are modifying, doing things differently, and reimagining, interacting in terms of the maker spaces, which are designed to be scattered throughout the building, the spaces out in the classrooms, students having interactive technology just to run Chromebooks, using things like Google Classroom, but it's very constrained by the current building. And so the new spaces should be much more flexible and allow them easier access to all that technology. Does that answer your question?
So the costs of all that kind of technology have been incorporated into this design?
Correct.
Mr. Peluso?
This is the second time I've seen this presentation. It was great the first time. It was great the second time.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that I missed the question I'm about to ask the first time. So the $291 million minus the 86 means the town's going to be right now at most, unless there's some really strange things happening, $204 million.
Right.
The $30 million cushion, if it turns out that the construction guys and the managers and the architects involved in it save some of that $30 million, okay? So let's be really enthusiastic and say we saved the whole thing.
Okay.
Oh, you know, you gotta have it. I had construction clients over the years. You gotta have that cushion. That would mean, does the Massachusetts School Board, School Building Authority figure change?
Yes. So.
Okay. So 2/3 of, if the whole 30 million was saved, unlikely, but if it was all saved, 2/3 of it would reduce the town's share. Wow. So you're talking about a possible reduction, if it happened, we'll pray for it, $20 million.
That's right, and that would be a...
Wow. I missed that the first time around. I have to apologize for that. The other thing is that video is so good. I don't know if there's a way you guys can show that, not even on ACMi, but when you send out emails to people, when you put any kind of promotion on anywhere, can you hook, I assume it's on the website.
Yes.
The video is a wonderful view, and it makes you proud to be involved with it.
Thank you. And HMFH put it together, so thank them. Adam, do you want to say something?
There it is. I just want to quickly add a caveat to that answer. It would depend on where we save the money. If it was fully reimbursable, it would be at that sort of 70-30 breakdown you saw. If it wasn't reimbursable, we would save more money. So it's not an automatic even breakdown. It would depend on how we were saving the money, just to be clear.
Grant?
I've heard some postulate that voting against this would be a favor to the teachers, that the capital investment somehow would crowd out operational or something else we could do for teachers in terms of salary or benefits. I'm skeptical of that, but obviously have the teachers or the AEA taken a position, and in this way, giving them what I think is a pretty amazing workplace, is there any sort of dark side that we should be aware of?
Kent Wurst is here. Kent, where's Kent? Kent, you want to talk about...
I don't think there's one, but I've heard it said that we're doing them a favor by not spending this money so we can spend money elsewhere.
Kent, you got to take a microphone.
Yeah, so my name's Kent Worth. I'm a math teacher at the high school. I see no downside to this. I mean, the school that we're working in, you know, I heard a student recently say, do people realize it's literally crumbling around us? My room is so hot, I have sweat dripping off of me in the warmer months. The colder months, I still have my windows cracked to keep my room, you know, comfortable. It's a horrible working condition, it really is. So, I mean, I can't predict, you know, what the town's votes are going to be in the future, you know, based on this. But for me personally, there's no downside. And I don't have an answer for that. I don't think the AEA is taking a position. You know.
I think what are the teachers saying?
Yeah, no, the teachers are thrilled. Nobody wants to continue working in the building that we're working in. And teachers look at the video and they just, you know, they can't imagine having such a great facility.
John, you had a question? John Leonard?
Watching the video, I saw how from the back of the school there's going to be access to get to Mill Street. But there's been a long talk, rumors about traffic was also going to be exiting onto Grove Street, and I didn't see that looking at the video. Are we planning on actually leaving Mill Street into Grove Street, or the exit to Grove Street has been abandoned?
I'm going to let the town manager go into detail. Adam, you want to talk about that?
So that video didn't show it because it's only looking at the high school site and not the DPW site. Right now, the intention is to still maintain vehicular access on Grove Street. We will there's been some discussion about this in the community, to acquire one residential parcel immediately adjacent to the DPW site to make sure that the DPW site is safe, efficient, and functional, and maintaining that access. But so long as we can make all those pieces come together, the plan right now is to have Grove Street vehicular access be an option.
Because I live on Grove Street and it's standing room only on that road every single day. So if traffic is going to be coming out onto the high school, from the high school, there's no place to go. I mean, it's very heavily traveled right now trying to get up to Mass Ave or trying to get down to Summer. I know your choices are limited, but if you bring more traffic from the high school, it's going to be standstill or stop and go, as they used to say. Thank you.
So to be clear, we're not currently planning for it to be either an ingress or egress. We're planning to make sure that we can maintain vehicular access so that once the school is operational and we're able to observe and study the traffic flow around to Mill and Millbrook, that we'll have the option to study Grove Street, but without foreclosing the opportunity to use it as either an entrance or an exit.
Sir, you had your hand up. Did you have your hand up? Yeah.
I admire this gentleman's optimism here about being able to recoup some of the contingency. My concern, having sort of experienced public works projects before, is the other one. I wonder if somebody could add some color around the construction manager at-risk delivery method. I have a little bit of experience with that, and typically it's a good system, but it has its weaknesses. I guess the bottom line is, who's driving the bus on cost containment? Is that the state that's more involved in the at-risk, or the city, or both? Because there's something gives me a little bit of pause in here, is that where it says the model allows for the owner to be part of the selection process of the trades and some subcontractor. And where I've seen that go south is that even, I think we had a Skanska person here, they could maybe speak to, it's gone south on them, where there's very well-meaning contractual terms that are in these construction contracts, whereby, in particular Skanska's case in New York, you may know the case I'm referring to, where they we're kind of forced into a fraudulent situation by well-meaning people saying to have diversity in subcontracting. However, typically when you have smaller trades and so forth, they don't have the financial stability or the resources to perform on these contracts. And it causes huge cost overruns that just cascade. So while the process for cost containment I think is a great one, who is responsible for driving the bus on that?
I mean, ultimately, the town is the owner of the project, and the agreement is with the town. We signed. Right now we have five. We have five. We have five large construction firms that are bidding on the project. We're going to select the construction firm in the next few weeks.
So Skanska's the GC on it, and then
no. Skanska is the OPM, the owner's project manager. So there's five bidders. There's five large construction firms that are bidding on the project. They'll be driving the project. As soon as we select that firm, then we begin the process of design development and also getting bids on subs. And
so it rolls up to Skanska on the guaranteed, on the GMP, on the guaranteed minimum price. So that's where I'm disconnecting on.
No. Yeah, Skanska is not the contractor.
Skanska is not the contractor. Skanska is our construction industry professional that serves as the owner's project manager. When we select...
So they're advising you on this.
Correct.
And so they're the ones that are going to essentially sanity check the costs for all components of the project.
Along with the architectural team. We'll do independent cost estimates through the process.
Who does the independent cost estimates?
So we'll use, Skanska will contract with an outside firm, separate from the CM, separate from the construction manager, to do cost estimates as we agree to the various GMPs as we get towards construction.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir, you had a question in the back?
Hi, thanks for the presentation. So I've seen the presentation before, and one thing I saw this time around that I hadn't seen before was a dollar sign on the no vote. I know people who live in single bedroom apartments here in Arlington who don't have kids and are just looking at the the increase in their taxes that they're expecting and are planning on voting no. And I think so the sense that some people have out there is that if they vote no, no construction will happen and their taxes won't go up. You're saying that if there's a no vote, they'll still have to expand the size of the existing high school and that they'll have to do mandatory renovations to the high school to bring it up to building code, and that this could ultimately be more expensive than building a new high school. And I don't know if that's widely known out there. I mean, if people realize that that's the alternative, and I wonder if that could be more widely publicized.
So it's in the town meeting presentation. At the final couple of pages, talk about that in detail. But those are the facts. We'll be in the same situation as Lincoln. We'll be in the same situation as the town was in the mid-1970s. And according to Senator Friedman, none of the communities that have tried to get back into the MSBA process in recent years have gotten back in. And we're a town with greater wealth than other towns in the Commonwealth, so the likelihood of us ever getting back into that process pretty slim.
So my questions are very straightforward compared to those. My daughter graduated from the high school 10 years ago. I know just even back then how bad it was. And I appreciate all the details in the report. Just to kind of get a better visual, for me, a concept of what would be, so 3 different things. What's the height differential from the existing high school to what the plan is? And what's the frontage to the street? I know that's a hot topic with green space and everybody appreciates it. So the thought of reducing is tough. I get that concessions have to be made. But just to get, excuse me, a feel for it a little more, because I didn't see that in the report. It's very detailed, but I didn't see that. And then also what's happening to the mature trees that are there.
Okay. Trees, footage from why don't you get a microphone? Lori Coles is our architect, and she can answer those 3 questions better than anybody.
Hi. So, is it on? Height-wise, Height-wise, so the Fusco building, which is on the left, is a 4+ story, and we're going to be a 4-story building. So the classroom wing that we're proposing, which is, if you're on Mass Ave facing it, it's on the right side, is essentially the same height as Fusco currently on the left-hand side from Mass Ave. The building is set back anywhere from 80 to 100 feet, depending on which part you're looking at from the sidewalk. And the plan is to keep all of the mature trees that are along Mass Ave. About 80 to 100 feet, depending on which part of the building you're looking at. So compared to what it is today. Yeah. Okay, who remembers what it is today? It's like 130 today, maybe? It's a little bit more. Yeah. Right.
But one of the other points that's been made is that although we are taking part of the setback, we're also increasing the amount of green in the back and the usable green interior to the building.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate all the work that's been done and the work that's been done, the presentations that you made. I know it's taken a lot of time. And my questions are not in any way a criticism of anything. I know it's taken a lot of work. I have a couple of concerns, and maybe they could be dealt with as you see appropriate. In terms of traffic, in the last couple of years, I have noticed the incredible backflow of traffic on Mill Street. I was just wondering if there was a traffic study done, how recently it was done, and if one was even done, and if something more current can be done, because there's been an incredible increase in traffic on Mill Street. That's a question that can be answered. The other question is the deck that Adam showed. I know some of those slides are in this. Is that deck available in its entirety, where you had 5 slides, some of which are in this? I don't need an answer right now. And my other question was, all of this that you're showing is great. I've had discussions with people. I'm a little bit familiar with building. I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about it. If there was something that could answer or present questions real simply, like the setback, for the average person to go on to the website and interpret those schematics is challenging. I have experience in it. It's challenging for me. So it's kind of like simple to and fro answers that would be helpful. The other major concern is, unlike the gentleman who is very optimistic in thinking that the $30 million could be reimbursed, my concern, and it's been expressed by a lot of people, of course, is the cost. Your numbers make sense. It's expensive, etc. But for a roughly $291 million project, that's 4 to 5 years, that's in 3 to 4 phases, that involves people actually using the facilities while the construction is going on, I am really concerned that a 30% contingency is not enough. So that doesn't need to be answered. I know you're working on keeping the costs down, but a 12% contingency, a 12% contingency over that period of time with the complexity of the project. Look at other projects. You're really limiting it. I'm not arguing with you. I'm not saying it's bad. It's a great project. And I appreciate all the work. That's all my questions. If the deck is available, and if anybody has suggestions on how those simple questions could be answered on the website or any other way, I think it would be helpful. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So the first question was about the traffic study. Do you want to talk about that?
Me too.
Oh, you want to talk about that? Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So we've done an initial traffic study. During this study phase, in the last year, we did one. And we've met with TAC, the town's Traffic Advisory Committee, Council, I'm not sure. We've met with TAC twice already, and they've reviewed our initial study. We actually are proposing, at this time, a traffic light at Mill Street and Millbrook. Again, it needs to be studied further but the cost thereof is already in this project. So if it proceeds, it's already in the number. And we have plans to do, that's her, not me. She did it. We have plans to do additional traffic studies with guidance with the town's TAC group in terms of scoping out different aspects and studying them further. So that will all be happening in the next phases.
So the first question was on the traffic. The second question was on the simplicity of the website. Amy, do you want to speak to that at all? Do you want to? Amy Spear chairs our subcommittee, our communications subcommittee.
The deck that you saw tonight is the same exact presentation that was given to town meeting, and it is already up on our website in the recent news or in the resources. It's in a couple of different places. And yeah, we can look into adding that about the frontage. We can add that to our FAQ, which has a lot of information in there as well.
And then the third question about the contingencies. I mean, there are three factors that have to be of concern to anyone managing a construction project this complex. One is the contamination in the soil. We have a good feeling. We've done some good studies. We have a good sense that we know what's there and we've planned for it. The second thing is what you find when you knock down an old building. Since we're building a brand new building, we have confidence that we've allowed for that. And then the third thing is what you alluded to, and that is what happens in the construction market over the next 4 or 5 years of this project, and that's an unknown. We'll see how many subs bid on all the projects on the project. It's something we're going to have to monitor, and throughout the entire process, we have to keep the community informed, and that's what we're going to do. So I think that the only thing we're going to do is what we've done in the past, is that when we know something about this project that impacts it in any way, positive or negative, we're going to share it with the community and talk about it. That's about all we can promise. John.
One other thing I would add to that is one of the great benefits. Quiet? Yes? One of the great benefits of the construction manager at risk process. Can't hear me? All right, forget it. One of the great benefits of the construction manager at risk process is that we can manage the sub-bids over time. In the traditional process, we put the project out to bid at the beginning, the numbers come in and they're fixed and only adjusted by change order. It's a terrible process. With this process, we can bid the project incrementally and make adjustments as the market changes. That's a huge advantage to us. But yes, you're correct. It's a risky project, and we believe we've accounted in our contingencies for those things that we need to.
Can I say something about the traffic? So I live very close to the school, so the traffic...
Ken, you got to take the microphone or ACMi will get...
That's right. I'll talk right into this one. So I live very close to the school, so traffic is a concern for me also. But if you look at the site diagram, there's now pedestrian access basically all around the building. You can walk around the entire building. So there's, it's much more accessible to pedestrians. There's a connection to the bike path, so it's more accessible to the bike path. And they've maximized opportunities for traffic flow. There is that two-lane road that goes around. There is potential to have exit onto Grove Street. There's also potential to put a gate there. Basically, the way I view it, we've maximized our options, and traffic, I believe, is going to be a concern no matter what we do. This growing enrollment, we only have the roads that we have, and I think traffic is not going to be great no matter what, but I feel like this plan maximizes our opportunities to mitigate traffic, or for people to find the most efficient way around the building.
Yes, a question in the back.
Hello there. God, this is loud. I just have a really simple question, and that is, how will it be handled so as to minimize the impact on the students who are there during the construction period. My son will be there for the entirety of the construction period. So I'm just thinking about how that's being thought of in ways to minimize the impact on them.
Great question. My son will be there as well. Lori, do you want to talk about that?
So let's see if I can do it, and then Lori will tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, first, this design was picked, among other things, because it minimized the disruption to the educational program. So for the first year and a half of construction, when construction is being done out on the front part of the building, the interior of the building where the students are right now will be largely untouched. So we're going to be in the same conditions we are with some construction going on the front. If you read on the blog online, the OPM helped write that, and that goes into a lot of detail about the ways in which the construction impact on instruction is mitigated during the period. So, you know, there's a lot of conversations and a lot of process that goes into keeping that separate from what's going on in the building. But from an instructional point of view, we're in the same building for a year and a half. We moved part of the building into the new construction. Yay, that's the current freshmen. They get that for part of their senior year. The next year and a half, we're building this sort of second academic wing and the learning commons. We move into that 3 years after the start of the project approximately. And then we've got another year to go until we're into the gym and cleaning out on the back. So the idea is we're never without an auditorium. We're never without a gym. Most of the new spaces are built before we have to move out of the old spaces. So the instructional impact should be minimized.
I think the only thing I would add to that is that the contractor will work like daily with the school department. And so if MCAS are going on, if anything, I mean, they will change what they're doing that day. So that's going to happen throughout the whole process. I mean, the contractor that we will be hiring, working on an occupied site is second nature to them, and they know that the priority is that the school stays up and running and gets what needs to be done for the students to get their learning happening. So that's a big piece of it.
Other questions? You're kidding me. There's no more questions. Yeah, sir, you. Oh.
Just a quick one on you're going to bond out the money to build that. What is the assumptions that your numbers that you're working on per household uplift on the property taxes? So what your bonding out interest rate assumes what?
The interest rate, Adam? Well, the assumption is the impact on the average household in the town of Arlington is going to be about $802, so it's a little over $1 per thousand value. But
the assumption is 30-year borrowing, 4% interest. 4%. We won't borrow it all at once. We're still trying to figure out if we'll borrow it in 3 tranches, 4 tranches, or maybe even 5 tranches based on when we need the money. But it won't be. We won't go out and borrow $204 million next month, right? If it's successful.
Do you work through the state to do the bonding out, or do you work with an underwriter to do the direct bonding from the city out, so that you have control doing tranches rather than have to bundle it?
So we have control. We work with a financial advisor that works with the market, and we actually issue our own bonds.
So it is issued directly. It has no state oversight.
No state oversight.
So they'll rate it themselves through you.
Yeah, so right now the town is rated AAA, which is the highest rated that we can have. So we'll obviously work to maintain that as we go out with these big issuances.
So your mathematics, when you're doing this, you are assuming tranched bonding?
Yeah, so the 802 is the total number.
Yeah.
That will take 4 to 5 years to ramp up to that number.
Gotcha. Correct. John?
Just as a quick follow-up to a question I asked one time at one of the other meetings, and I don't think I ever got an answer. When we ran a project, I think it was for the Millennium Year so many years back, one of the ideas was to set up a staging area at the back of the high school and pick up seniors and transport them to the occasion of the day by way of buses that we provided. My question that I presented at one of the other meetings about the high school was, a thought might be that you're going to have the kids going like they always do, coming down Grove Street, going into the DPW, going into school, the traffic on traffic on Grove Street. An idea might be to have a staging area for whatever construction contractor you have set up down in where the skating rink parking lot is, and transport the contractors by way of buses from there to Grove Street. Let them depart the buses, do their daily work, get back on the buses, and come back down to the skating rink to their private cars, and then take off at the end of the day, thereby cutting down on any vehicles with the kids going to school at the same time.
When the construction manager is selected, one of the things that that company will be doing is looking at that question. You know, where do we stage? Where do the workers place their cars during the day? How do we get the workers from wherever they park to the job site? So that's one of the questions that they'll start to work on almost right away.
Because my idea would be that their day is probably going to be something like 7:30 to 3:30 or something like that. And you would hate like heck to have vehicles trying to find parking spaces while kids are trying to come in for 8 or 8:30 in the morning for classes. And if they needed anything out of their private vehicles, it's a hop, skip, and a jump down to the skating rink.
That's a possibility, right? This parking at the skating rink, or do you want
to? I don't think we could put the skating rink out of commission for 4 years of the project.
No, I'm just talking about like reserve maybe, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 spaces for the construction workers, that instead of having 10 or 12 extra vehicles up on the site.
So we anticipate there probably being upwards of 100 construction workers on site at any time. So I think we're talking about far more than 12 or 15 vehicles. But your overall point is well taken, that we will need to figure out where we can have a satellite parking site or staging area somewhere in town, because we won't be able to have that many construction workers parking on site. Could be St. Camilla's, it could be Ryder Street, the property that we own, it could be some combination of all of the above. But we're keenly aware of the need to figure out what the right staging site is.
Thank you.
Greg, Christiana, you had your hand up?
Hi, thank you. I just want to let you know that, I've been following the work of the building committee. I've attended a lot of these public forums. I've had individual conversations with a number of you. I've had email threads with a number of you asking lots of questions. And I just want to say, thank you so much for all the volunteer hours. I know, Adam, this is your job, but thank you anyway. But so many, I think you've done such an excellent job. You've had demonstrated such a depth of knowledge and diligence on this project over, up to upwards of 2 years at this point. And just thank you so much. This has been really a huge effort on all your parts. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no further questions, you can just gather around us at the end and we'll answer them if you want to have individual questions. There are tours of the high school, so if you want to see what Kent Wurst and the other teachers see every day, there's 2 tour times we've set up for people. Thursday night this week, May 23rd, 7 p.m. You just walk on the front entrance of the high school. We'll have tours going around the high school. And then there's another one on Sunday, June 2nd. Sunday, June 2nd at 1 p.m. And from 1 p.m. until 3 we'll be there? Probably about 3 o'clock. So anyone in town that's interested in seeing the high school, anyone that has questions about what we're trying to build, that wants to visualize it a little bit better, you're welcome to come. Thursday night, 7 p.m. at the high school, and Sunday, June 2nd at 1 p.m. at the high school. And if you are a student and want to help out with tours, Avery and friends, you can sign up with Amy Spear. You get whatever, communities. Yeah, I know, Avery does. Plenty of community service opportunities. Tell your children and grandchildren that at the high school. Okay, thanks very much for coming. We appreciate it. Have a good night.